President Trump is said to have decided to withdraw from the landmark Iran nuclear deal, a move that could result in renewed sanctions on OPEC's third largest crude producer. Earlier, we heard from Iran's President Hassan Rouhani acknowledging the implications of fresh U.S. sanctions. Take a listen.
It is possible that a particular person comes to power in a country and creates an extraordinary situation. These things happen in the world, but we will pass through this. We may face some problems for 2 or 3 months, but we will manage the problem anyway. The basis of policy is to work with the world and have a constructive engagement with the world.
Joining us now is Brenda, Schaffer, former advisor to Israel's Ministry of Energy and Water. She currently serves as an adjunct professor at Georgetown University Center for Eurasian, Russian, and East European Studies. Thank you so much for joining us here.
Thank you.
So how much discretion does the Trump administration have in reimposing these sanctions?
Right. Well, there's almost complete discretion. That's why we're going to see a lot of volatility of the oil market, because even the announcement on the withdrawal from the agreement, this will not tell us the details about at what pace and what scope Iranian oil comes off the market. And this is going to actually be dynamic with actually developments in the market. So it's kind of like a chicken and the egg. As the administration assesses the state of the market, they will pull more oil off. And almost counterintuitively, one of the beneficiaries are going to be actually producers like Iran, like Russia, like Saudi Arabia, when we see this oil coming down and actually the price going up.
And it's not just the economic impacts of this. It's also about the geopolitics in the region. Of course, you advise Israel. They're going to be quite satisfied if President Trump does, in fact, withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal. But at the same time, could we see other players get into this? Russia, perhaps, making their own deal with Iran.
Right. Well, we have so many moving pieces. For instance, look at today, the fall of the oil price, almost counterintuitively right before the announcement on the decision. But you're looking at actually the rally of the dollar. That's probably something that's not connected specifically to the deal, something that's actually impacting the downward trend of the oil price, and completely disconnected. But Russia, I think, is going to have a very surprising response, which on the rhetorical level, they're going to stay, much in solidarity with Iran. But actually, they're probably, as they usually are, very happy when sanctions are imposed on Iran for 2 reasons. One, again, this has an upward pressure on the oil price. And 2, despite all the brotherly love between Iran and Russia in the Middle East and in Syria, they bump into each other a lot. It's actually in Russia's interest to have Iran in a box and actually more dependent on Russia and actually more obedient towards Russia.
So, Brenda, to Shery's point, the geopolitics here have as many unintended consequences as almost anything else. When it comes to Israel and its relationship with Iran, if the U.S. does withdraw from this accord, does that heighten tensions between those 2 countries, or does it lessen them?
Well, we're in almost an exceptional period in terms of, I wouldn't say relations between Iran and Israel, but we've had proxy conflicts between Iran and Israel. We've had use of terror. We've had assassinations, in Iran of nuclear scientists. But we're actually in a period where a really direct war between Iran and Israel is not only possible, there's like a high probability, not only in and around Syria, but actually being brought into Iran itself and therefore into the Gulf, into the mother lode of oil. So we're really in an unprecedented position. I think very few people are even looking at, because it's almost such an extreme response, that there could actually be direct conflict between Israel and Iran.
And of course, this comes at a time when Iran is not doing great economically. It will hurt them more. We know that they already have a run on banks. The rial has lost about 1/3 of its value this year. How bad will it get for Iran, and could that in fact facilitate a new deal with them?
Well, actually, in terms of the domestic politics, it could go either way. On one hand, we had unprecedented demonstrations in Iran in December and January that were extremely interesting because they were focused more in the peripheries of Iran, which are mainly ethnic minorities. But sometimes when there's external sanctions, as we see in Russia itself, it actually unites people around a regime. So it's on one hand declining economy, social instability taking place right now in Iran, but no one likes it when the sanctions come from outside.
Brenda, thank you so much for joining us today. Brenda Schaffer of Georgetown University. It was great having you with us.
Thank you.